Today with me, I'm talking with Emily Bryczkowski, who has been nominated in the category of business as part of this year's Promote Inspirational Awards. And she is part of Baby Sensory Portsmouth.
Hello.
Hi, nice to have you here
Yes, thank
today.
you for having me. Happy
Tell
to be
me a
here.
little bit about yourself and Baby Sensory Portsmouth.
Okay, so I've got 3 children, and so my background isn't actually in babies, my background is in marketing. So I worked for a long time with a publishing company, and when my second son was born and I was on maternity leave, I got made redundant, which was a big shock, and I was quite settled in the business and I was lucky to be working part-time. So I was trying to find something I could do around the kids and saw this opportunity. So Baby Sensory is a franchise. I had the Portsmouth franchise.
Sure.
And saw the opportunity came up and thought, I'll give it a try. And so did. So took it on 4 years ago.
Wow.
And actually realised that this is exactly what I want to be doing. I love my other job, and I did love, the corporate lifestyle was handy, knowing that my bills were going to be paid and I was going to get sick pay. So changing completely to being self-employed was a bit of a worry, but I've realised that job satisfaction outweighs all that sort of thing. Being able to work with mums and babies and around my children is amazing. Absolutely.
Fantastic. And tell me, what does Baby Sensory do?
So we started sort of the official line is that we were parenting classes. So we were teaching parents how to engage with their babies. And I love that part. It's so lovely to see. I have babies come. I've had a week-old baby in class, and I've seen that baby grow over a year. So to see the development is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But actually, what attracts me mostly to it is the mums. So we've got quite small classes, which means we're in an environment where we can talk about everything to do with our babies, to do with, holidays and what's going on in the world. So I can create these lovely friendships and these little networks. Especially, I often have MCT groups that come to me, so they've already got these lovely established friendships. But I love it when I get to meet lots of different mums and put them together with the common factor being their babies, but actually they then become friends. And so for me, as much as it's great to support babies' development, I love supporting the mums and dads that come to classes. I love that. That's the best part of my job, and I've made lots of lovely friends from it as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. And do you have classes all across the city?
So I'm lucky that I've got my own little centre.
Oh,
so I'm
fantastic.
based at Eastney Community Centre, not far from here. So I've got my own, what I call the hub there. So I run all my classes from there. I've got a little office there, so I can have a little bit of space away. And it means that I can set up my classes and run a whole week, and everything's in the right place, which is really helpful in terms of with the kids not having to pack things up and move stuff around. So I do all my classes out of there, and I've got a lovely lady called Kaylee who works with me as well. So she's great. Yeah, so it's lovely.
Oh,
Such a
that's
nice environment. I love it. Yeah.
And how many parents do you support?
So we see 120 a week at the moment.
Wow.
So yeah, we've got big numbers.
Has that increased, like post-COVID?
I think, it has really. Pre-COVID, I had my centre, but I was running bigger classes. So even though we're now sort of on the outs of COVID, it's still, I think we're still so used to having that space, aren't we? When someone's quite close to you, you sort of feel like,
yeah.
I haven't had this for 2 years. So we're running lots of classes. We do 15 a week, and we have sort of up to 10 babies per class. I think people just missed human interaction, and that's what I'm finding actually is so I run terms, so you tend to be with the same people for 6 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
But I'm finding the friendships form much quicker now, and I think that's because we've gone for 2 years of not, Zoom was helpful, but you can't really bond as much as you can in person.
Yeah.
So I think when they meet another mum in class, they're bonding really quickly, and I'm noticing friendships forming so quickly.
Yeah, and speaking as a mum myself, they had a baby 3 weeks before we went into lockdown.
Nice.
There were advantages, as we were talking before. I didn't have the pressure of having people coming to the house.
Yeah.
I was able to adapt because I chose to breastfeed. And when I was tired, I didn't feel like I needed to clean the house and have my hair done.
Or get visitors round and prepare yourself for visitors.
Exactly. Yeah. But they did reach a point where I thought, I want to show my baby off.
Yeah.
And that couldn't happen. But I suppose one of the things I feel most robbed of as a new mum in COVID is not having the interaction with another mum.
Yeah.
Because it was my first time having a child, I did go to like antenatal classes, and it was encouraging, you know, because when they ask everyone else in the room and they're showing you how to change the baby, and we're all talking about the different things we've bought and coming up to our due dates. It's encouraging.
It's helpful. It's useful information.
Yeah, and then I didn't have that. I didn't have, you know, us going to a baby club. Yeah. And when you're a new mum, you don't know a lot of things.
No, cool. And you just want to relate to people, don't you?
Yeah.
And you try, you know, we did do classes online, and we tried as much as possible, but it is that disconnect where you're not just sat next to somebody and you can just, you know, lean over to them and say, God, I've had a terrible night.
Absolutely.
Because on Zoom it's who's going to talk first. So it is hard. I don't know how first time mums, you know, I take my hat off to them because it's such a stressful time. Yeah. And actually what you want to do is you might just want to go around to your friend's house in your pyjamas and have a cup of tea and cry because it's overwhelming, and you felt really you didn't have that space to do.
Absolutely,
so hard.
And also I think with the clubs and these like the sensory group that you run, it's also about getting reassurance, because sometimes you know what you have to do, but then as a new mum you just want someone to say, oh you're doing really well. I know it sounds really silly,
it's so true.
It's so true. So I think
it's really hard.
the work you're doing is so important, because when it's not there, it does have an impact on mums, and I'm saying that like from my personal perspective.
And I've, you know, like I said, I've got 3 children. My most recent child was born last December, so we were in that lockdown then as well. And you know, I was a third-time mum, so I sort of knew what I was doing. But like you said, you want to show your baby off. You want to be able to say, like, I've gone through 9 months, and here's my lovely baby. Hold him, and you can't do that. You know, we had door visits, but it's not the same.
No.
So I can understand how people feel really robbed of a time with their babies, and so now, you know, I really want to encourage mums to try and not get their time back, but enjoy their time with them, and feel fulfilled with their baby, and be able to, like I say, create those connections that you weren't able to have because it was such a lonely time. I can't imagine how having a baby in that first lockdown, especially when, at least when I had my son, we'd come out of the first lockdown, so I sort of knew what was going on, but you obviously had no idea. You were pregnant, we're going to have a baby, and then all of a sudden we were in this global pandemic. And
and you just get home with the baby.
Yeah.
I tell you what, pandemic babies, and I don't know if any of our listeners can relate to that, they are a little bit, there's some things that they, like my son for example, he was introduced to everyone via video call. The minute I pick my phone up, he's posing. Or he's talking into the phone, and I'm thinking, gosh, what was that about?
Or they'll smile because they think, oh, someone's on camera. Like, it's mad, isn't it?
And my husband was like, because he's met everyone on the phone, and I thought, wow. And I remember taking him to Tesco, I think like after our second lockdown. He wasn't very old, and maybe a few 8 or 9 months, maybe a bit older, and he just screamed. I think he was thinking, who are these people? They don't look nothing like the people I live with.
Imagine how it must have been such an odd situation for these babies who, even if you don't have big networks of family, they would have met other people, and then you're like, okay, we're out of this now, and I want to show you off, so I'm going to take you to these places, and actually it's really overwhelming because they're seeing people face to face. It must be so bizarre. So
it's so bizarre.
We're going to have that, I think, to deal with for a while, because you're going to have, you know, the knock-on effects of their first years of life being on a screen.
On a screen, exactly.
Which, and it's not the worst thing, you know. Then I think there were lots of mums that were worried about the impact on their babies of only seeing people on screen, and it's not the worst thing in the world for your baby, but making sure they have those human interactions as well. I think
the human interaction is so powerful, and like you said earlier, you've seen in your groups that people are forming friendships quicker, and we weren't created to live in isolation.
No.
We were created to make friends, to interact, to share, to laugh, to learn.
Absolutely.
It's built within all of us as instinct.
Absolutely. I was reading about how the suicide rates went up understandably during the COVID period, and it was people that you didn't think would go down to that route, because these are people who have thrived usually in big social environments, and then they're put by themselves in a house, and so their mental health couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And you can really understand
Absolutely.
that. On the flip side, those who had struggled with their mental health previously were finding that people could relate to them more, because somebody like myself who was so used to being with other people then understood what it was like to be really insular and stuck by yourself. So yeah, it's been a real shift in terms of mental health and the impact on people.
Absolutely.
And understanding other people, I think.
So apart from people creating friendships in your group, what sort of activities do you do? Is it just baby playtime?
It's a bit, so we basically use all the senses.
Oh,
so
good.
which is lovely. So we do a lot of music making. We do, for example, over Easter we bring in fresh bread and get them to smell fresh bread and feel fresh bread. We get them to feel textures. So it's making sure that they use all their senses to build their brain development. Music being a big thing, dancing. We have different theme sessions. So next week I've got Baby Olympics. So we've got horse riding.
My friend has put something on her social media about Baby Olympics. I was like, that's so amazing.
So we have such good fun in class. Bit of craft sometimes, and I want to make sure that the parents enjoy it as much as the babies. Sometimes I have to say to the parents, remember, you've got babies in front of you, because like, wow, this is great. But yeah, we do. Yeah, so we lots of different activities.
And what age group are the babies?
So the youngest I've had's been a week, and we go up to just over a year.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So we have these teeny tiny babies that just sort of sleep a lot of the time. So again, it's really nice for the mums to just be there in another environment and to give them something to do. So I think that structure of each week, I'm going to class, gets you out of the house. So it's a real range, and you see them. I see them from tiny babies every week, and then I see them moving and walking and saying words. It's such a lovely journey, really lovely. And I keep in touch with a lot of the mums, so then I see that lots of them are starting school this year, so I see them sort of really growing. It's really lovely.
You're doing so well and
really
impacting so many lives.
I hope so, because like I say, as a mum myself, and when my daughter was born, feeling the struggles of new motherhood, I just sort of cuddle all these mums and say, you're doing a great job, and it's going to be okay. And sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's great, but you're doing great. So I hope it, even if I just make one person feel better, it's
and I think motherhood is really tough in the beginning, or maybe as a first time mom. I don't know if it's the same if you're second time, third, fourth, whatever. But there is an expectation, because I remember thinking I was happy to have a baby, and I think this point applies to irregardless of which culture or country you're from. As a woman, you feel really happy and you celebrate the arrival of your baby, but it's not always spoken about the tiredness that comes with having a new baby.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I felt like, and then also people forget to ask you how you are. They always ask me, how's the baby? And I remember thinking, I am happy and I love my baby, but I'm tired.
And it's not always great. It's not. And I think that was the problem I found. I was the first out of my friends to have a baby, and so all I'd seen from everybody else is what a joyous thing it is to have a baby. And actually, sometimes you don't sleep, and sometimes they're crying for no reason, and sometimes you miss your old life. And I think I try to be really realistic with friends and family, but also mums in class, that you don't have to enjoy it all the time. And of course, that's not to devalue that there might be further problems in terms of postnatal depression, but also you can have a bad day and it doesn't affect your whole experience of having a baby. It's just we have ups and downs.
It's just one day, exactly.
And you shouldn't feel that just because you've had a day where you thought, oh my god, this wasn't what I signed up for, that you don't want to have your kids. It's just you're having a bad day.
And it's totally normal. It's totally part of being a human being. We all get bad moments.
Of course. And it's like, I thought that as soon as I'd have my daughter, I'd look at her and feel an overwhelming love. And I didn't. Some people do, and that's fantastic. But like any relationship, you need to build on it. And I had this person, and it took me a while to not fall in love. I had the love there, but building this relationship and this bond didn't come straight away, and that's okay as well. You don't have to feel overwhelmed with love. You can build it, and it might take months, it might take a bit longer, but I think people aren't realistic enough with motherhood, and I really appreciate those people that say I've had a bad day, or this part's really rubbish, or but it will get better. I think making sure we support each other is what's important with that.
Support is so important. So have you always lived? You've always lived in
I
Portsmouth?
have, yeah, born and bred.
Oh, lovely. And what do you like most about the city?
I think I've always loved Portsmouth, so I went to uni here and I stayed here after uni as well. But I think it's since having kids I've realised the real community feel. So even though we're a city, there's such a good community vibe
Yes.
to it, especially around the mums and finding support networks, lots of stuff to do with the kids in the summer. So there's always people around with children. So it's finding my network through having kids that I've loved most about the city.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
a nice place to be.
fantastic. And I know a few minutes ago, well, before we started the
Yeah.
podcast, we're talking about 3 people you'd invite for
We
dinner.
were, yeah, the pressure was on, wasn't it? Yeah.
The pressure was on. So who would you invite?
So, Michelle Obama.
Yes,
She
I'll
was-
definitely
I mean,
invite
because
her.
the story she has to tell, but also she's such an inspiration.
Yeah. Do you listen to her podcast?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I
and
need to. I
she's-
haven't read her book yet, but I was. Yeah, we were saying we're gonna have
She's
her.
amazing. Yeah.
I think it's because she is so educated and worldly, but ultimately her priority is her kids.
Yeah.
And it's so nice and refreshing to see that you can have it both ways. You
Yeah.
can have that amazing career, but it doesn't mean that you can't adore your children and think that they're the
Yeah.
world. So I love, the way that she balances
Yeah.
life and work together. And still, she seems really down to earth. She's still got such a down to earth personality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she'd be a great person to have dinner with. The Queen, that was
Yeah,
another one.
yeah.
We heard some stories about the
Yeah.
Queen that we won't repeat. But
She is a phenomenal woman.
just
I keep-
interest.
I keep reading up on because obviously her platinum jubilee
Yeah.
is this
Yeah.
year, and I think she's really resilient
That's it, and so dedicated to her
to her role.
role. I mean, she's obviously not by any means someone that we can relate to because she's the Queen of England. But when you think about what she's been through over 70 years, is that
but
what it is?
I don't know. It's interesting you say I relate to her.
Do you?
Yeah, because when I look at her at this point in my life, I think, oh my God, she looks like she'd make such an awesome grandma.
Can you imagine? Yeah.
But she's a mother. There've been conflicts within the family.
Yeah.
Those are all things we go through. She's endured, people passing away.
Yeah.
Be it her husband, obviously more recently, her dad,
Yeah.
her mom. I just find like there's so many common day things about her.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from Zimbabwe, and I'll tell you a little fact about myself. When I was in high school, I went to a school that was called Queen Elizabeth School.
Oh really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm sure you've noticed by now I love to talk. And I was the person chosen to write a speech to the Queen.
Uh-huh.
And they filmed it and they told us this will be sent to the Queen. And I remember I was all smart in my uniform and my badges. I think it was her birthday,
Okay.
maybe her 50th or something.
Mhm.
And I always thought, in my head, I had this image that she was really posh. She lived this lavish life, and I just imagined, I don't know, this opulence.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And when I came to England, I was like, oh, but even ordinary things that happen to us happen to her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I built this image that she was just so far away from normality.
Yes. But she's a person at the end
But
of the
she's
day,
a
isn't she?
person,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think, if I were in her role, it would be easy for me to be a diva.
Yes. But she's very
She's very calm,
yes,
and she's very
respectful.
composed, respectful.
yeah.
Despite all the things that happen, despite everything the media say, like if someone just says a bad comment on my Instagram page,
Yeah.
I'm like, why did they think that? What have I done?
Yeah, of course,
and
yeah.
that's just one comment, and she's like seen so many things through the
Lifetime of
media,
things, yeah.
and I think she's really resilient.
Yeah, I think so.
Like
Yeah.
70, how many years?
I think 70, isn't it?
years.
Yeah. To be in a role that she wasn't supposed to be in.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you see things like the funeral of her husband, and she sat by herself, and she was so, and you think she's just a person at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But
Well,
with
I
nice
think
skills.
I would also invite her.
Yeah, I think she'd
possibly,
be interesting. Yeah. And I've heard that she has afternoon tea every day at 3 o'clock, regardless of where she is in the world.
Really?
So I'm all for afternoon tea. So
I'm
that would be.
I tell you, I love afternoon tea and a good old fry up.
Yeah. it both to the Queen. Yeah, be fine. So yeah, she'd be good. And then third one, it's tricky, isn't it? I'm
Or you could
tossing
just have
up.
the two.
Well, I'm putting maybe Britney Spears in.
Yeah,
I mean,
her
she's
story.
doing well, isn't she? She's come through the most horrendous
The
experience.
conservatorship.
Yeah, and now she's living her best life, so I reckon she'd be a
She
bit of a laugh at a dinner party.
Yeah, she'd be a laugh.
Yeah.
She's really been through a lot, eh?
I mean, and behind closed doors until recently, and you think poor women to have to go through that from being a child, child star all the way up. So
yeah, and also I mean Britney's story. I'm like that's happened in America, like
in the modern day.
in the modern day,
Yeah.
like how?
How is she so repressed? And so yeah, I think it's her time now, so that she can come along, have an afternoon tea with us and that.
I know, I would as well. And any advice to any of our listeners that are maybe they are feeling a bit overwhelmed with their new baby?
Yeah.
How can they reach you? Or how could they join one of your classes?
Yeah.
And what advice would you give them?
I think if they're feeling overwhelmed, what I would like everybody to know is they're not alone. So, I think in modern days, we follow all these people on Instagram. I do the same, and they look like they have a perfect life. And of course, what I post on Instagram is a picture of my children behaving themselves, which is, a rare occurrence.
And in the corner of the room, that's not me.
Where else can I take it? Or the 10 pictures before is them fighting with each other. So people present themselves online as having a perfect life, but in reality, we're all struggling with different things. So to not feel alone, to always reach out for help, and for those of us, to be honest to each other. So if you're having a bad day, if you can tell people, it's going to let them feel to be honest and open. Even though we run our classes, I'm very much for I'd help anybody, if they wanted to message on Facebook, so Baby Sensory Portsmouth on Facebook, and try and support them in any way I can. We do things like mum socials, so we go out for drinks just as mums to give them a chance to meet each other and to not be so-and-so's mum for the evening. So to just know that they're not alone in their struggle, and that it's okay to be open to your struggle and to talk about it, and to say you're having a bad day, and to just be there for each other as well. So being open and honest, I think, is really, really important in new motherhood, because otherwise you're forced to think that your life isn't what it should be, and actually every life has a nuance, and it's up and down, it's not always straight sailing, and they shouldn't think it should be that way, because it's not that way. So hopefully can get them in, give some support, and have some fun together is what I hope in our classes.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Yeah, really nice, and I can see why you've been nominated. It's a fantastic business, and you're inspiring so many parents that are coming through the door, and it's really needed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.